Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Phoenix Club.
Yay.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Phoenix Pod.
It's the Phoenix Pod. Turn right into paradise. Or is it turn left? I can't remember. But we'll work it out. We'll work it out when we get to said episode, and then I'll be able to get it right on the money.
Right sounds better than left. I'm sure it is turn right into paradise.
Yeah, I think it is.
We'll find out. Anyway.
We'll find out, yeah, as soon as we get there.
So I'm, of course, your host once again, AXC, joined by a man who's not here. Well, I'm not joined by a man who's not here, because he's not here. Unfortunately, he's having computer problems, but I'm joined by another man instead. From RID, it's Lewis Ogden.
How's Al doing?
We're doing fine.
Oh, cracking. Yeah, we're literally Les Alanos in it tonight. We're missing Jerry St. Clair in the form of Mr. Flinders, but hopefully he'll be back.
Jerry the Berry.
Yeah.
So this is, of course, episode 4, which is, I believe, it's titled Ladies' Night.
It's Ladies' Night, yes.
Singles Night, even.
Oh, Singles Night, yeah. Ladies' Night is a I don't know whether it's the title of the episode for an episode in season 2, but there's a contributing factor in said episode that involves a ladies' night. But we'll get there.
So, of course, the club is having a singles night. Brian meets a lady.
Mm-hmm.
But is she all that she seems? Find out. And there's some other obscurities, but we'll get to that shortly. So we start the episode. We see Brian asleep with his phone ringing. He said light on and putting his glasses. Simply answers with what?
Mr. Potter.
Speaking.
Yeah. Speaking. Who's this? 3:30 pissing morning.
It's mixed through Patalinen. Oh?
Ew. Is it a Bolton Coroner Office?
So as we come to find out, it's Max and Paddy playing a trick on
Yeah, they're ringing up for a payphone. A payphone, which I sort of like, you don't see until they obviously get off the phone, but it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Which I was thinking, like, God, why are they? You know, because it's obviously sort of like, because they've got kebabs in their hands, so they've obviously been out on a night on the piss. And I was just thinking, why are they doing this in the middle of nowhere? And I was thinking about it, and they probably had to do it in the middle of nowhere because if they did it on sort of like a busy street on sort of like a Saturday night, they probably wouldn't be able to pick anything up audio-wise.
More than likely, yeah, or probably one of them where it'd be if it was like a main street, but like, oh, there's two blokes here, like, they've got a body. Yes, I'm afraid we found a body, Mr. Potter.
Oh, God. Oh, Jerry. I'd asked him to lock up. Oh, 19 years. 19 years.
Oh, we need to know, Mr. Potter. Did he have false teeth?
False teeth? What? What the bloody hell should I know? Who is this? And then Max and Paddy just start laughing. Laughing down the other end of the phone. And my favourite line for this entire skit is, I know who you are. Who are you?
I noticed that. You sick animals, laughing at death. 3:30 in the bloody morning. Bloody well done, Matt. Phone down, lights up, light.
Phone rings again. Mr. Potter. Who is this?
Sergeant Patterson.
Sergeant Patterson. I'm afraid there's been a break-in at your club. Oh, break-in, is it? Who broke in? Bloody fire brigade was burning down the last time you called. He's like, and obviously you can tell the bloke on the other end of the line is actually a member of the police. It's like, what? I beg your pardon. He's just sort of like, well, freaking. I can't remember the exact line.
So Sergeant Patterson says, "I beg your pardon." And Brian says, "Do you? Well, cop for this."
He literally puts the he puts the receiver underneath the covers, right up against his back passage, and you hear a big, massive. He's like, "Have some of that. Good night." Puts the phone down again, and then it cuts to back to the Phoenix Club
with young Kenny and Brian in his pajamas in his brewery dressing gown.
Like, thank you very much, Sergeant. And Sergeant Patterson's like, well, I don't know why anybody would want to break in and sort of like steal a load of beer crates.
Young bull sticking crack. The first way up them beer crates. So Sergeant Patterson leaves, we get, see ya. Then cut to the opening credits.
And then it's a look of, oh, Jesus Christ.
So it's, of course, singles night. There's a lot of blokes in, but not many women, it seems.
Yeah. Well, it focuses on sort of like one of the side doors, and Les and Alan are already there, and then Max and Paddy come through, and Paddy's like, living La Vida Loca, and then you just see the look of horror on his face. Ravon set up on the DJ decks.
Well, it's at one point he's playing that It's Lonely This Christmas. So I'm guessing it's nowhere near December.
Yeah.
And then he follows up with people here to suit all tastes. And speaking of taste, the flavoured condom machine is restocked and ready for action.
And he starts playing All By Myself. And then just as the track's kicking off, Ray comes on and just sort of like goes, I bet some of you have cried yourself to sleep many a night listening to this.
Shabba.
Shabba. Oh. Deary me. And then it's the next bit, Brian and Kenny Sr.?
Yep.
Yeah. So he cuts to Kenny Sr. and Brian, and Kenny's going, woke up, rolled over, I'll never guess who were next to me. Bonnie Langford.
Brian ignoring that lot, they're like pigs on heat, and it cuts to Max and Paddy and that.
Yeah. And then you just hear Kenny just go, nearly broke her back.
But Max and Paddy, no, they're all single. They're all hanging. All about Max saying, we let the dogs out.
And Jerry comes through, he's just sort of like all tarted up, and Max goes, bloody hell, what are you wearing? It stinks. Jerry goes, something you can't afford. And then Paddy pipes up with, what, for breeze? So they have a good chuckle. And then Jerry goes, oh, sorry, Paddy, couldn't see it was you with light bouncing off your head.
Back to Brian and Kenny Sr. Who's that with Ravon?
better warn her. They'll be dragging a body out of the canal by Monday.
We cut back to Max and Paddy and Les Alanos talking about how lyrics must make good chat lines. With heaven must be missing an angel. Or if I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? You know, stuff like that. Where is it? Max, I don't know who you are, but you're a real dead ringer for love. Who sang that? Meatloaf. Les just looked on, puffing his fag. Everywhere you go, you'll be
We'll just take the weather with you. And all of them just look at him, just sort of like, no.
Then we jump back to Brian, nervously approaching Ravon. You've tapped off quick. This is my girlfriend, Mr. Potter, Tracy. Do you fancy a beer?
No, not really my taste.
I'll have a drop of teachers though and get in the bars. Ray just looks at the bars like, the fuck am I supposed to?
While Ray's at the bar, he just turns to this Tracy, who's just sort of like, his last one were called Tracy. She's like, you what? It's like, must be a thing. Get out of here. Run while you can.
Just get out of here. DJ Def, the Yorkshire rapper. You don't know what happened to Tracy Burns. I am Tracy Burns. What?
I'm Tracy Burns. It's like, you're Tracy Burns. You're Tracy Burns. Oh, look. You're alive! You're alive! Oh God, couldn't tell it was you because you didn't have your hula hoop. Excuse me while I go sack me back in band.
So Brian goes to reverse off in embarrassment, trying to do a 3-point turn and runs over a woman's foot. Start before he can see her.
Yeah.
Well, if you move, I don't know if but I'm in a rush.
Yeah, because that's one of Brian's go-to lines. Is just sort of like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm disabled. But he's literally he catches himself sort of like mid-sentence when he realises it's a woman's foot he's run over. He just sort of like goes, don't know if you noticed, but I'm clocks it and just sort of like in a rush. So she's spilt a drink, and so Brian has Marion make her a new one. So yeah, double tea Maria and Coke.
I'll just have a Coke. A Coke, yes. Is that all? You want something else? Oh, Tia Maria. Double. As Brian looks over at Marion, double his mouth into a single. It's on.
I missed that.
I was trying to work out what he says to her, like, because she says like, "Oh, Tia Maria double," and then Brian just look like Marion double. He's like mouthing to her single. It's on me.
It's like, you with anybody? She's like, it's a singles night.
Oh, I in it just.
So they cut back to Max and Paddy. Well, that's actually no. There's sort of like a cut of the couple of the regular Phoenix Night ladies, Phoenix Club ladies on the dance floor, and they just cut to Max and Paddy with looks of disgust on their faces. And Paddy's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get my end away tonight. Max is like, you're addicted to sex. Paddy goes, I know, I am. It's an illness. Michael Douglas had it. So Max goes, you know, you're going to be single for life, you are. He's like, what? And Paddy goes, what, like you? He's like, nah, you see, mine's through choice. And Paddy goes, who's hers?
But then Paddy notices Holy Mary's daughter behind the bar. I never knew she had kids. Yeah, she's two, Mary and Joseph.
Joseph.
The BTEC in joinery down at the college. Oh, no.
Max is there going, hey, she's too young for you. And Paddy just goes, well, Paddy showing, the times of when this series was out, just goes, hey, as long as there's grass on the pitch, which I doubt you'd be able to say in this day and age.
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
But he gets a dodgy look off Max and then Alan Athlon jumps in with, "Hey, I see Ironside's trapped off here."
Actually, I had a little bit of a trivia knowledge of the woman who plays Beverley.
Yeah.
She appears not only in episode 4 of Phoenix Nights, but she also plays a character in the 4th episode of that Peter Kay thing.
Oh, yes, she's in the singing group, isn't she?
Yeah.
I can't think what the bloody called.
I can't think off the top of my head.
Yeah. I think her character's in a wheelchair as well, isn't she?
Oh. Do you know what? I can't remember. It's been ages since I've seen that Peter Kay thing. I've only ever seen it the once.
I've got it on DVD somewhere, but someone did say I read somewhere the other day. They're all on Daily Motion. So. Interesting.
It's a nice little bit of trivia for you.
I'll also go back and watch it now and be like, there is her. And she is in a wheelchair. See if she does actually say, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm disabled.
Yeah.
So, we see Brian and Beverley sat at a table just having a chat with Radio and the Disco. And he chimes in with, "Okay, we're going to slow things down now as you enter the erection section. That's somebody tonight. Get on the dance floor. If you haven't, what are you still doing? What are you still here for?
You losers."
Shouts, "You losers!" And I think he realises he's still on mic. Alan's slow dancing with a woman, but she's smoking, as we see when she turns around. She's tipping ash down the back of his shirt. Les walks over, just sits down with some woman, and then just says, "I'm horny. Horny, horny, horny." And she said, tells him to piss off.
Piss off.
And then we've got Paddy chatting to Mary Jr. "Go on, that's it, Patrick."
Kenny Senior comes up and Max is just there going, "How's it hanging?" And Kenny goes, "It's hanging off. Just had 3 of them round the back." And Max just walks off without saying a word.
Then we're back with Paddy and Mary. We're holding Mary, not looking too impressed. As she follows up with, "Shouldn't you be collecting glasses, Mary?"
And then they just carry on.
Paddy's trying to chat her up, yeah. Then we cut to the Galaxy Lounge later in the evening. We've got Brian talking to Beverley. Last to leave. Brian with a line of, "Fruit machine, pin me up against serving hatch. I'm in a coma till New Year. When I woke up, I lost my club, lost my legs, I lost my will to live. You can't go back. You can't go back this."
Lights come up, so it's kicking out time in there.
I think they want us to leave. I think they do. I've got to walk up.
And they agree to go out on a date with each other. And then is this the bit with the montage of just sort of like all the different dates that they go on?
Yeah, there's sort of a bit of a back and forth where she's like, "Oh, we could go out sometime if you wanted," and he's like, "Is that what us?" And "Yes." Oh yes, I like that. I like that very much. Yes. And so it shows them like they're in the park, and then they go to the bowling alley.
They're in the park feeding the dogs, and Beverly's doing the thing of just sort of like tearing off a little bit of a slice, but Brian's just chucking in like whole slices. Then the second date is them going to a bowling alley. And for someone that's worked at a bowling alley for just over a year, I can tell you this method of rolling people in the wheelchair down the lane, it wouldn't be allowed, just because it's slippery as fuck, them lanes, because they're basically oiled and greased every day before they open. So literally, if you go walking on it, you're literally going to fall on it. It's like going on an ice rink. You're literally going to fall on your ass. Which I'm surprised didn't happen with Brian, to be honest with you.
Well, he sort of
Because he literally he rolls down the lane. This right side of his wheelchair goes into the gutter, and he drops the bowling ball, and it goes into the other gutter. And then they're out paintballing. Obviously, Beverley's got free range to move about. Brian, obviously, in the overgrowth, can't really move about in his wheelchair, and he's literally sitting ducks. He just gets shot multiple times, and you can just hear a very faint. Ah, ah, ah.
But it's when you see him getting it in the chest, and he's just like firing like out of just like he's just randomly firing into the air.
Oh. And the next clip, they're out for dinner, and the late person coming around, sort of like selling stuff to people. She's selling roses, so she goes to Brian, flower for the lady, and Brian just looks at her and goes, "Fuck off."
Which I think is the first F-bomb in the series so far, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I've not really. We've had shit. Have we had shit house? Shitter?
We had shithead, we've had bastard. Piss.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any F-bombs dropped. So, but nearly 3.5 episodes it took for the first one to kick in.
So we're back in the Galaxy Lounge. It's about half full with karaoke.
Yeah.
Brian on stage singing "Wind Beneath My Wheels."
It was a nice touch. It was a very nice touch.
Well, he finishes with "Thank you very much. That's for Beverley over there. Thank you." And Jerry being the compere as usual. Brian Potter, ladies and gentlemen, your very own Brian Potter. And that's the end of part one.
End of part one.
Oh,
and then the start of part two is literally probably the happiest that you've ever seen Brian Potter. Wheeling through in a polo shirt, sticks a quid in the little charity box. Goes through to the bathroom. Well, actually, before he goes to the bathroom, the condom machine's been raided.
Jerry?
Who's done this? Who's done this? Vandals should get that screwed in. And he whirls himself into the toilet, so you're just sort of like, Christ almighty.
He says, Christ, my eyes are burning. Jerry says, it's not my fault. I've not been the same since that cowboy punched me. Are you regular, Brian?
Like a Kennedy funeral.
You could have set a watch by my arse. Big night. Yeah. Bucket bingo. It should be good. No, I'm talking about me and Beverley. Oh, I'm taking him out to Shed's Potter. We're going to have a meal. A meal? I didn't know you could cook. Yeah, there's a lot you don't know about me. We'll have a meal for two, and then the world's your lobster.
Oh dear.
So again, Potter getting his phrases wrong. I was thinking of giving her a pearl necklace. With Jerry, does she know? So he flushes the toilet. I was going to surprise her. I think you might just do that.
Yeah.
Jerry's come out of the other stall that Brian wasn't expecting him to come out of. So he says, Jerry? Yeah. What do you do, Jerry? I'm a compere. No, what do you do? What do you mean? You know, women, tactics, manoeuvres. Well, you and Jean must at some point. I mean, for goodness sake. Me and Jean? Yeah. No. Well, once or twice.
Twice, and I'm not a machine.
That was years ago. Beverley's different, Jerry. She's a modern woman. Oh, dear. Well, then, as Jerry dishes out some advice. Well, I'll tell you this: don't rush. I had a girl once. I rushed. Big mistake. As he whacks the hand dryer on, still talking, but Brian can't make out what he's hearing, what he's saying. As Jerry's making hand gestures, the dryer stops. He just finishes with "covered in piss."
I think there was a bit like sort of like in the middle where you could hear sort of like big stretch of like elastic.
Oh dear. Brian just stares at him shocked after hearing "covered in piss." So cut to Brian's lounge. Him and Beverley are sat.
The actual pearl necklace in question is his mother's pearls, basically. She's like, "Oh, you didn't have to." It's like, well, no use to me in any way. She would have liked you to have it. He goes like, grabs like a great big massive Toblerone and is like, "Toblerone." It goes to split it into segments. It's like, blue nun, do you want a bit of blue nun? Aye, go on, have a bit of blue nun.
There's also a bit where he's like, Beverly's like, "You must miss her a lot." She said, "She's not dead." Let's not stitch me lane. Where is it? Yeah, no thanks. If you hit anything else, I'll burst. Brian says, "I know, lovely meal that, weren't it? It's a cracker, that burger bar."
Kebabs, burgers, chicken, we'll do the lot.
So he's trying to palm off to Jerry that he was cooking.
She's trying to call it an early night, but he's sort of like, "Oh, you can't go until you see me jukebox. Look at that. It's great, isn't it? Not many like them in the world." It's like, "I got that from the States." And then there's a pause and you just sort of like go, "You got any change?" It's like five songs for £1. It's just sort of like, I think I've got one. So he sticks the money in and starts putting Marvin Gaye, "Let's Get It On." Is it Marvin Gaye?
Yeah, Marvin Gaye, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes, 26B, a bit of Marvin. He knew the score. Yeah.
And,
do you ever get lonely? No, not with Marvin anyway. There's a character.
So, yeah, he's singing along to the lyrics, and he's just sort of like goes, "After the Neptune burnt down, me and Jerry, who went away to the States, had a lovely 2 weeks. Jerry got the shits."
So worker. I've got a video of it somewhere. It's on the floor down there. Just whack it in. I've set it. It's there on top of Flashdance. Oh dear. But then, so Beverly sort of quizzing him with, "You've always lived on your own." Brian carries on singing. "No, I was with James many years. Worse luck. Here we are. Look at this. Look at these rockets. Stand well back. They'll blow your head off."
Yeah, because they record. There was a big fireworks display on the last night. And Jerry recorded it.
So then Brian turns to Beverly and the share a kiss.
And then as they're sharing this kiss, a lot of blue porn comes on. And Brian's there just going, "Where's me remote? Where's me remote? It's Jerry's take this."
"It's Jerry, it's knock it off." There's actually a voiceover on the TV as well, which says "splash your cream right in the headlights."
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, God.
We cut to the following day with Brian lying on a bed. And, "Oh, it's wonderful. Feels great. It's been years since I felt like this." It's Jerry lying next to him. I told you
you should have done this sooner.
Is it orthopedic? Is it orthopedic, this, love?
Yes, yes, it is. And can you get your feet off?
So as Jerry reveals, Potter's buying a waterbed.
Yeah.
So a waterbed, eh? That's right. You're splashing out, aren't you? Splashing out, do you get it? But then, excuse me, Brian and Jerry discussing the night before. Do you begrudge me a bit of happiness, Jerry? As they're talking about the kiss, and then he's saying, "Don't get carried away." But then, where is it? Brian says, "No, it's too late for that. She started a fire in Potter's heart." You see, Jerry, I always thought that love was only true in fairy tales. Meant for someone else, but not for me. It's been 12 years. He thinks he's in for life, you know.
And he points down to his groin. It's all like, him. It's like he's up for parole soon. If he gets out, I want to give him a big welcome home.
So then we're back at Brian's with Beverley.
Yeah, they're having some lunch, and Brian's just sort of like, Beverley, I've got something to tell you. I'm not good with words, and she shusses him. And as he's got her finger to his mouth, there's literally just sort of like a crumb in the corner of his mouth, so she literally just sort of like flicks it away before putting it back, which is a nice little touch. And then probably the most quotable quote of the episode. Brian's going up his Stanner stair lift, obviously going to his bedroom. She's got holding Beverley by the hand. She's coming up behind him. She's like, "Won't be long now. Just you wait. Things I'm gonna do to you."
Excuse me. So then we see Beverley bouncing on the bed.
Yeah, but it's just sort of like it's not a POV shot, but it's like a close shot of her sort of like bouncing up and down, and then it cuts to sort of like a wider shot, and she's just sort of like bouncing up and down on the bed trying to get on it.
With Brian excitedly saying, "Climb on." You feel that? Yeah, it's water, that. But then Brian says, "Oh, maybe I've found my sea legs." Whoops, steady. But then follows up with, "Listen, before we crack on."
He's got a Polaroid camera. He's just sort of like, smile. And he takes the picture and sort of like, "Oh, look good, that. I think it came out great."
She's trying to get his attention. He's just like completely ignoring her. Like, will you listen? Me and you, that. It'll look good. So she finally gets his attention. So she said, "I'm not the person that you think I am." He looks at her confusedly and says, "You're not a bloke, are you?"
She's like, "No." He's like, "You didn't used to be one." She's like, "No, not like Haley."
For those who don't know, Haley was a character in Coronation Street who was trans.
Yeah.
She's married to Roy Cropper.
To be honest with you, it was done sort of like years before sort of like, you know, the thought of transgender like really got as big as it has done.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, it was like what, 10, 12 years ago that it sort of like when it was sort of like revealed that Haley the character was trans.
Oh no, it was longer than that. It's probably, this was 2001, so it would have been like.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Still it was a very sort of taboo subject at the time for Coronation Street to have like a trans character.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, and then sort of Brian Potter taking the piss.
Yeah.
So Yeah, where is it? No, I've never been a bloke. Thank God for that. And you never ran over my foot in my foot that night in the club. What? And she reveals she works for the DSS, and they sent her to investigate him for fraudulent disability claims. And she's trying to sort of backtrack out of it, sort of saying, "I've never expected any of this to happen. You know, I never felt like this before. That's why I wanted to tell you."
Face away. Face away. And she's like, I'm just doing my job. And Brian goes, you know where the front door is? You understand if I don't see you out.
So then we're back in we're in Brian's office. Brian's sat at his desk. He's got a brown parcel, which reads Brian Winston Potter on the front. And it's got Beverley's address on the back. Pulls out the pearl necklace and looks at a photo of himself and Bev. And we hear Jerry with Brian. Right. Puts them back in the envelope and puts them in his drawer. And wheels them over to the notice board.
Jerry's there just sort of like going, must have been painful. And Brian just goes, like, what should you compare, Jerry?
Well, it's where is it? We've got Paddy's on the phone. And,
Paddy, thought that phone were broken. Oh no, can't get through. Hello? No, nothing.
But then she's phoned again. Oh, that's twice now. She'll stop.
Yeah. He's put up a notice, sort of like advertising the waterbed.
It's one Ray Vaughan's done. It's Brian in his wheelchair on a surfboard.
Riding a wave.
A speech bubble reading, ahoy there, king-size waterbed for sale. Excuse me. So then we're on the Galaxy Lounge stage, with Jerry on stage, and he's checking over the microphone, and Brian's at the front.
Basically setting up for the night. Sort of like, well, been there, done that. I'm going to spend all my efforts and time putting it into the club. And Jerry's taking the covers off the drum set, and then he gets to the organ. He's like, "Oh bloody hell!" He's like, "What?" He's like, "Found you missing beer crates, but they've nicked your organ, bastards." And then, speaking of organs, the end credits.
So we're back in the Galaxy Lounge for another audition, as we hear Nelly the Elephant. And we have an extreme close-up of what looks like an elephant, but it cuts to the reaction of Brian and the rest of them as a man in a long raincoat and shoes wearing an elephant G-string, jumping up and down to the music.
And he just cuts to them all individually, like Ray Bond, whose cigarettes hanging out of his mouth. Brian's reaction's the best, because it's literally just sort of like, everyone else's is just sort of like shock, but Brian's is sort of like a mixture of shock and horror. And it literally gets to the end, and I think it's the only time in sort of like the entire show where every single one of them just goes next. So you get a nice unison moment to sort of like end the episode. And yeah,
that was episode 4 of the Phoenix Nights.
That was episode 4. Yeah, as I was saying to you before we started recording, so it's definitely the weakest of the 4 so far. There are funny bits in it. It is a funny episode, but in terms of memorable moments, it's probably the weakest. But there's an element of sort of character depth of, sort of like Brian letting his guard down and allowing himself to sort of like become emotionally involved with someone. And I think it's quite unique that you see Brian as sort of being happy because, there's so many occasions and so many episodes that you see where he's just utterly either miserable or just pissed off with everything.
Yeah, definitely. Let's. I think for me, it's probably the weakest episode of probably season 1, but then if not like the entire series, really, like overall.
I'd say so because sort of like looking up, like next one's a corker, and then I can't really remember the season finale too well, but I know we'll get to it. But next week, the next one's a really good one, really really good one. There's lots of elements. Whereas I feel this one was sort of stripped back into just sort of like one, and then there's sort of like a little side. There's like a little side.
Well, it's normally where you have sort of the A and B stories. The A story is very much the Brian and Beverley, but the B story was pretty much like the beer crates had been nicked.
Yeah, but so, it's the main. You could say sort of like a good. Just trying to think of like a good fraction to give. I'd say it's sort of like 7/8 of the episode is entirely focused on sort of Brian and Beverley, because you only really sort of like have the bit this whole singles night is sort of like the B plot, and then just sort of like from that moment on it's all Brian really. So I think that's probably why the other episodes work a bit better, because it just sort of like chops and changes between the two. So there's a progression and a continuation with both stories. Whereas this one, your B story is sort of cut off about like 5 minutes in.
I think as well with this one, because it takes you away from the club quite a bit, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Because you see them off, like they're out in the restaurant and they're on dates, they're playing paintball and bowling and all that sort of thing, and then they're at Brian's house. And there's not really that much in the actual club itself, apart from like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like a couple of bits later on, and then like nothing again really till the end.
Yeah.
So, because then you don't really see much. Like you see Kenny Jr. He's at the beginning with wheeling Potter about. You don't really see him again.
And then you don't see him again now.
So,
but I think there is a way of doing that, and I think if I remember quite rightly, the opening episode of series 2, there's not a lot of it sort of like being based in the club, but the way that the episode's structured, it just goes from sort of like character to character to character. So there's like a nice ebb and flow to it. Whereas I felt this one just felt a little bit grounded.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it might just be me, but I'm not saying it's a bad episode. I still enjoyed watching it, but as I say, it is the weakest of the 4.
Yeah, there's definitely some good lines. Like I think this is one of Kenny Senior's strongest episodes for his lines.
I don't know. I quite like playing swing ball with Robert De Niro. That's been my favourite Kenny Senior line so far in the series.
I think for me, it's been this little Spanish bit with him and Keith Ward. But then, where he's like, just have 3 of them round the back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this next episode is the combination of the Robot Wars tournament and the open mic night. So there is some gems in the next episode.
I remember the Robot Wars bit. I don't remember much of the open mic, so it'll be interesting.
Oh, I know. Well, I know quite a bit, to be honest with you, and there's some very unique acts that come in.
Well, unfortunately for our listeners, they'll have to wait till next time.
Yeah.
For that one, but so that was episode 4 of the Phoenix Pod. I hope you can remember the plugs now for RAD, Lewis.
Well, I can do my best, as I say. Paul would usually be here to give a proper rundown of all the links and all of that. So you can find, well, obviously I'm part of the RAD podcast, mainly feature on there. It's only really sort of like when we do Phoenix Nights material that I ever venture over here onto the Lost Art of Podcasting. But if you do like the sound of my voice, I'm not going a particular way. Don't worry. But if you'd like to hear more from me, and obviously more from Paul and other guests that come onto the show, you can find RAD Podcast on Twitter at UKRAD Podcast.
Yes.
Or is it Pod? If you type in UKRAD, you should be able to find it. And we're also available on Facebook.com/RAD Podcast, and we're pretty much available on pretty much every single listening device that's available for Lost Art of Podcasting and the Lost Art of Wrestling as well. So your Spreakers, your Apple Podcasts, other listening stations, which I'm sure Coxy will be able to run down better than I will. Do apologise about the plugs in advance, Paul, but it's the best I can do, just sort of yeah. I've made a fucking balls of this.
It's fine, don't worry. Throw your proverbial hat in the ring.
This is what happens when I don't have a script in my hand.
You mean like the Bible I've got?
Yeah, I know.
That's £3 I spent that.
Yeah.
And of course, you can find the Lost Art of Podcasting on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Lost Art Podcast. We're on Instagram, Lost Art Podcast, and you can find us on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the good podcast places. So
yes, UK RAD Podcast on Twitter.
Well, Lewis, thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. And as I say, we should have Mr. Flinders back on by the time we get sorted for the next episode. He had had computer problems and had to purchase a new device, and it's literally just a case of him setting up, and then he should be able to join us for the next one.
Robot Wars.
Robot Wars.
So yes, I think the only thing that's left to do now is next.